everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we're coming at you with our week 6 preview picks, fantasy football slash betting plays for every single game of week 6. Some really, really good games. This Commanders Ravens game is just a beautiful matchup to me. I feel like it's going to be a very, very, iconic matchup when it's all said and done. Some really fun young quarterbacks. It's a late night pod over here for the Seekers. The Chargers and Broncos play this week, some rivalries. So it's going to be a fun week 6. How are you?
Doing good. It is rivalry week indeed. It's the toxic vibes already coming now between me and Dan. The subtle little jabs at each other all week. So it's gonna be a toxic week, but looking forward to it. Looking forward to the classic Broncos and Chargers matchup. But overall, it's a fun week. A lot of really good games, and excited to talk about it.
Crazy, it's already week 6 as well. We're a third of a way through the season. That's absolutely crazy to say. But let's just get right into this Thursday night football game. A lot of games to talk about this week and some really good games. And this is one of them, an NFC West showdown. The 2-3 San Francisco 49ers are going to go into Seattle and play the 3-2 Seahawks. The Niners are 3.5 point road favorites in this one. And I'm not very confident either way in this one. I'll get my pick out of the way. I'm gonna pick the Niners just because I was a little bit discouraged from the Seahawks losing, at home to the Giants last week without Malik Neighbors. A little bit of an unfortunate one. Dexter Lawrence really got the best of them. I do expect the Niners, to bounce back off that loss from the Cardinals. I think they outplayed the Cardinals. The Cardinals just kind of had a miraculous fourth quarter comeback rally, if you will. So give me the 49ers in this one. I'm not too confident on it at all. I could totally see the Seahawks offense doing some fun things. I really like what Grubb is doing over there. This offense looks pretty fun, but this defense is just so banged up. Like Byron Murphy is rolled out, and we saw last week that he's a very big part for this defense. Uchenna Nwosu obviously is out. Tariq Woolen is ruled out as well. And then Derek Hall, Julian Love, and Boye Mafe are all questionable. That's that doesn't bode well for the Seahawks defense. So give me the 49ers offense to kind of get back on track and click here. And I think they're going to win on the road here.
You know what? I want to be bold and give me the dogs in this one. I want to go in a little different direction. I like the way Mike McDonald has got this team playing. I like the way, Geno Smith has been playing. He's been playing very surgical. He's been playing on time. The receivers seem to be doing good. Kenneth Walker is back from that oblique injury. He is on fire. So give me the dogs. Give me the dogs. The 49ers have been struggling. I think they've shown their Achilles heel, no pun intended, with Christian McCaffrey. But yeah, I think they're a beatable team this year. And give me the Seahawks. This should be a really fun, exciting fist fight of a match. But give me the underdogs in this one.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun matchup. Not very confident on it at all. The 49ers are 2-3. Who would have thought? But yeah, I will predict them to kind of bounce back, get back on track. That's kind of a must win at this point for the division. This very tight, competitive division that they're in. Fantasy wise, it's kind of a simple one in this game. You know who you're starting. There's so many studs in this game. You're starting all of them. I don't really think there's even any borderline options. Juwan Jennings, I think, can hit the waiver wire. Brandon Ayuk, you're a lot more excited about. And then for the Seahawks, Noah Fant could be like the dart throw. But other than that, I think it's very cut and dry, all the fantasy options in this one. So anything else you want to say on it?
I was just say I think Kenneth Walker is a good trade for before he just really starts. I mean, he's had some big weeks, obviously, but I think Kenneth Walker is a really good trade for target in fantasy football. The volume he's getting through the passing game is very, very exciting for him. It's something we haven't seen in previous seasons. And he's just looking like one of the best running backs in the NFL. So I think just gonna throw that out. I think you hit the nail on the head with who you're starting and sitting, but I think Kenneth Walker is an intriguing player to go trade for in fantasy football. And
Yeah,
Jackson Smith and Jigba too.
yeah.
Jackson Smith and Jigba has not had that super big game, but his target share in this offense is ridiculous. The volume he is getting, and his connection with Geno Smith is getting better and better week to week. So what right now is a really good time to go buy low on Jackson Smith and Jigba if you're able to, trade him for like a Jordan Addison or something like that. I think he's well worth it.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I'm really liking this Grub offense. I would target it in fantasy. Walker, Metcalf, JSN. I would like them all in fantasy. I would like a piece of this Seahawks offense that's playing really well. Geno's playing awesome. But let's go on to the London game here, the 9:30 a.m. game. Set your alarms. The 1-4 London Jaguars are going to go into or play the Chicago Bears, the 3-2 Chicago Bears in London. The Bears are 2.5 point favorites in this one. And like I said, it is the London Jaguars. It's kind of their home away from home. They always play better in London. They beat the Bills last year in London. Give me the upset here. I'm going to go with the dogs, the London Jaguars, to win over the Bears. I just have a feeling that they're starting to click a little bit more. Trevor's coming off a pretty good game. Jaquan Brisker is out. That should be big. And yeah, Trevor and BTJ, this guy Brian Thomas Jr. are very just they're clicking, they're heating up. So give me the Jaguars and a little bit of an upset here. I just have a feeling that they get the job done. This young team, young Caleb Williams might, have some learning curves traveling across the, globe to go play this game. So give me the Jaguars. I think they're going to be a little bit more well prepared. They have another game in London the week after, so they don't want to completely ruin their trip week one. So give me the Jaguars here.
I love it. I love that me and you are immediately starting opposite because I am going obviously with the Bears in this one. However, what Trevor Lawrence did against the Colts last week was no joke. I mean, 371 yards and 2 touchdowns. He played some of the best football of his season this year. It really looked like the Jags offense and everything was starting to click. Tank Bigsby, on the other hand, I mean, he looks far, 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 far better of a running back than Travis Etienne. Looks more explosive, looks bigger, looks stronger. But I mean, Tank Bigsby, 13 carries, 101 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Look for a guy to add on your waiver wire, as a handcuff, or even as a potential, maybe he, takes that role over. I think he proved it. He's a very good running back. His yards after contact and everything was really, really good. So he's an intriguing piece on this Jaguars offense. However, I will stop talking about the team that I am picking against, and I will talk about the Chicago Bears. And on the other hand, Caleb Williams, man, he's on fire. He's playing some really good football. Looks like it's all starting to come together. Him and DJ Moore's connection is just really, really starting to glow. DJ Moore took off last week with 2 touchdowns. And DJ Moore was a good buy low target, for the first few weeks of fantasy football. Not anymore, sadly. But yeah, this Bears offense is starting to click. Their defense is top 10 in the NFL. And so I just have a lot of confidence they're going to come in here, give Trevor Lawrence enough. You know, I think the pass rush is going to get home. I think they're just going to give him enough of a fit to where Trevor Lawrence makes some boneheaded decisions. And ultimately, I think, the turnover differential, I think the Bears will win that. And I think that's going to be the difference.
Yeah, definitely fair. And I do want to say, I think Josh Hines Allen, Trayvon Walker coming off a 2.5 sack game, and Eric Armstead, I do think they could give Caleb some problems here. The Bears' offensive line, interior wise, has been struggling. So I do think that's another reason I'll pick the Jaguars. And then going into fantasy, these London games, I always just try to not start anyone in London games. It's always sloppy, gross games. We saw that last week with the Vikings and Jets. I'm starting Brian Thomas Jr. That's it for the Jaguars. I mean, you can start ETN. It's not exciting, but he will have that receiving floor that he provides you. So you can start those two for the Jaguars. And then for the Bears, I'm really just starting DJ Moore. And I think that's it. Obviously, DeAndre Swift as well. So you're kind of starting two guys for each team here. I don't want to start Caleb in London. I mean, you could if you're desperate, Cole Kmet if you're desperate, Roma Dunze if you're desperate. But those are really the only four guys that I'm looking to start in this game.
Yeah, and I'm sadly I made a very, very bad bold take the other week, and I said Keenan Allen will be a fantasy winner. I will already, expose myself for that. That was a pretty bad take. I mean, yeah, that was pretty bad. I'm gonna leave it there. I don't need to explain myself. That was just bad.
It was just helpful thinking for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else we'll say on this one, though?
No, I think I embarrassed myself enough with Keenan Allen. Just wanted to throw that out there so I don't get too much hate for it.
Yeah, don't start Keenan Allen until proven otherwise. I think it's just those four guys, BTJ, ETN, Swift, and DJ Moore. But with that, let's go on to our Seekers game of the week here, the first of the 1 p.m. Sunday slate. I think this is just going to be such a fun matchup. I really feel like it's going to be a legendary matchup that goes down in the record books. It's just going to be a fun game with two fun young quarterbacks. The 4-1 Washington Commanders are going to go into Baltimore, play the 3-2 Ravens, who are 6.5 point home favorites here. It's the Maryland Bowl. The Commanders won't have to travel far at all. This is going to be really fun. I don't know which way to go. I'll get my pick out of the way, though. I will pick the Ravens just because I think it's such a hard environment for a rookie to go into. Baltimore, it's only his sixth game of his career, as perfect as he's playing. Honestly, I don't think Jaden Daniels gets phased at all because he's just playing some surgical, amazing football. But I do think I have to take the Ravens here. They can run all over this Commanders team. They'll obviously be able to sling the ball when needed, as we saw against the Bengals last week. They got it done through the air. Lamar Jackson turned on that MVP Lamar Jackson. So give me the Ravens in a close, just barn burner shootout, 41-38. Like, last whoever has the ball last type of game. Give me the Ravens in just an electric matchup of the a year, really.
Yeah, this is gonna be really fun. I mean, we're talking about fantasy quarterback number one with Lamar Jackson, fantasy quarterback number four with Jaden Daniels. I mean, just two guys that are playing awesome, awesome football. But I'm gonna side with you on this one. I think the Baltimore Ravens and the experience of, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry in this game, I think they're gonna control the clock. I think they know how to win games like this. And I trust John Harbaugh and the coaching staff to come up with a scheme, that just gives Jaden Daniels enough of a fit to just keep him, off balanced, not right. But however, I think it's going to be a fun, high scoring game. But yeah, I think the Ravens will control the clock, and ultimately, I think the veteran leadership and the experience is what's going to come and ultimately knock off the Commanders, who are playing just a awesome, awesome brand of football right now.
Yeah, and like I said, it's going to be a barn burner. So target this game in fantasy. I would not be any surprise if it's the highest scoring game of the week. It probably is projected to be the highest scoring game of the week. You can start all of the players in this one. I would start, the fringe players like Eckler, start him. I mean, you could maybe throw a dart at Isaiah Likely just because of the matchup, just because this could be a high scoring game. This might be the only game for the rest of the year. I would say that about him. And then obviously the Zay Flowers, the maybe Rashad Bateman, he's coming off a good game. You could throw a dart just at this game in general. You want to target it. Brian Robinson, Eckler. You're starting everyone in this game. Obviously, the quarterbacks. It's going to be a high scoring, fun game. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely the game of the week. It's going to be one that's on my multi-view.
Absolutely. I literally can't wait. I can't say enough how fun this matchup is. But let's go on to another really, really fun matchup here. The 2-3 Arizona Cardinals are going to go into Lambeau, play the 3-2 Green Bay Packers, who are 5-point home favorites in this one. And I want to say target this game in fantasy as well. I think it's going to be a high scoring barn burner of a game. You want to start all the options you can in this one. It looks like Christian Watson should be back. He's coming back from injury, so that makes it a little bit interesting for the Packers receivers in fantasy. But give me the Packers in this one at home. I think it's going to be a close game. Could totally see it go either way, but I am pretty confident that the Packers win this one. They could win by 10 plus. I think they cover the spread. I think they are just going to click on offense here. I think the defense could kind of limit Kyler's scrambling. And I think Jair Alexander, we don't know if he's going to play or not for sure. I think that's a pretty big factor because if he doesn't go, then Marvin could absolutely eat in this one. So monitor that. But give me the Packers. I just have a feeling they get it done in Lambeau.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I have more confident in Matt LaFleur and the offense and and honestly the defense, for the Packers too. I just feel like they are, a little bit more well-rounded of a team. I feel like the Cardinals are just very, they're very hot or cold. And I feel like the Packers could be the team that really just cools them down after a big win, against the 49ers. They played fantastic last week. Disappointing week for Marvin Harrison Jr. Just really couldn't get involved. He only caught 2 of 7 targets last week. I do expect him to get rolling this week, but I ultimately just feel more confident in this Packers roster and this Packers coaching to knock off Kyler Murray and keep him uncomfortable.
And start Dobbs in fantasy. Obviously, start Jaden Reed, Josh Jacobs. They're both smash plays. I wouldn't start Christian Watson. I mean, he's got to show that he can stay healthy for a full game. Obviously, start Tucker Kraft. And then for the Cardinals, you're starting all their studs too. Obviously, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., James Conner. Kyler, you're starting everyone. Jordan Love, you're targeting this game in fantasy. I think just like the last game, that Ravens Commanders game, this will be the other highest scoring game of the week. So target it in fantasy. Anything else you want to say?
No, it should be another, Seekers fun game of the week. This will also be one on the multi-view.
Yep, game of the week. These afternoon games are going to be really, really fun, or these morning games, I should say. But let's go on to the next morning game. The 3-2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to go into New Orleans, play the 2-3 Saints. The Bucks are 3.5 point road favorites in this NFC South battle. And I mean, I think the reason that they are favored by so much is because it will be Spencer Rattler's first start. I think I'll get my pick out of the way. Give me the Buccaneers to win this one. I actually really like Spencer Rattler. I loved him as a prospect. I have high hopes for him actually. But in his first career start against a solid Bucks team, who I mean, their offense is just so great. They're a well-oiled machine. They can just score in bunches, as we saw in Atlanta last week. They probably should have won that game. Just criminal. The overtime rules are just criminal that Baker didn't get another chance to, get the ball in overtime. But rant aside, no Derek Carr. I do think the Buccaneers kind of outclassed Spencer Rattler in his first start, and I think I would start the Bucks defensive fantasy too. I think there could be some turnovers.
Yeah, I'm on the exact same page. Fantasy quarterback number two out here. Shout out Baker Mayfield, averaging 26 fantasy points per game. Somebody who just does not get enough love from the media or really anyone, all offseason and stuff, but just goes out there and performs at a high level. But yeah, this Buccaneers, they got a little humbled definitely by the Broncos, but they have bounced back. They're looking like, a really, really good, well-oiled machine offense. And, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Rashad White, Bucky Irving, Cade Otton. It's a good offense. And I just expect them, to be able to do enough to outscore Spencer Rattler in his first ever game. So I feel like this one is pretty chalk for me. I've got all the confidence in the world in Baker in this one.
Yeah, and I mean Kamara, Taysom Hill are a little bit banged up. I could see Olave and Shaheed kind of struggle, just not having that chemistry fully with Rattler. But I mean, Rattler's fun. He's gonna sling the ball around. He's confident. It should be a pretty fun matchup. I do think it'll be a fun little division battle here. But yeah, the Bucks offense is just awesome. Baker's playing like a top five quarterback. Will keep up the rest of the season. We'll see, but he's definitely gonna, end up being a top 10-ish quarterback with the way he's playing. So love to see it with him, Godwin, Mike Evans. Obviously, you're starting all of the Buccaneers players in fantasy. Don't need to talk about that. For the Saints, it's a little bit scary. You can start Olave because of Rattler. He's going to hyper target him. Shaheed, I mean, I don't know. We have Shaheed in co-manager. I'm just realizing this. Do we start him with
No, I don't
Rattler?
know if I trust Spencer Rattler to give him that 40-yard touchdown, to be honest with you. I'm a little bit panicking on it. I don't think I am super confident in Shaheed this week. However, you never know because Shaheed just gets behind the defense and all Spencer Rattler has to do is just chuck it up. And he's probably going to throw some Hail Mary balls and the game script is probably going to, have them behind. So I'm kind of thinking about this on the spot, but I don't know. It's like a 50-50 coin flip, but that's kind of how Rashid Shaheed is you're banking on that big touchdown.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it until now, but I think we do have to bench it for Wandell just to get that baseline. We have a big game this week. We can't afford a stinker. So I think we got to go with the Wandell type of option over Shaheed. And maybe if he goes off this week, we can start him next week.
Yeah, 100%. I do want to say something about the Buccaneers receiver. Baker Mayfield is producing two top 10 fantasy wide receivers right now. Obviously, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are just incredible. Mike Evans, wide receiver number 10 right now in fantasy, and Chris Godwin, wide receiver number 6. So this Tampa Bay offense, if you got a piece of them in fantasy football, you're loving it.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. Baker's just providing an awesome baseline for all these guys in fantasy. Rashad White's doing nothing on the ground, but he's getting such a receiving workload that it doesn't even matter. But let's go on to the next game. The 1-4 Cleveland Browns are going to go into Philly, play the 2-2 Eagles, who are 9.5-point home favorites, the biggest line of the week, and it keeps going up, indicating that Vegas does not think that Deshaun Watson and the Browns have any chance here in Philly with AJ Brown, Devonta Smith coming back, swole Batman, skinny Batman, the two receivers being back should really help Jalen Hurts be a little bit more competent as a quarterback. He's really struggled the last few weeks without him. It's kind of been Saquon or bust for the Eagles. But speaking of competent, Deshaun Watson is not competent. So give me the Eagles to win this game. Not bold at all, but Deshaun Watson is just playing XFL type of quarterback. This guy, JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, is really the only good player on the Browns right now. Even their defense is really letting everyone down. So give me the Eagles. Obviously, the two receivers back should really help this offense click. Saquon's going to eat. Jalen Hurts will look a lot more like Jalen Hurts. So I do think this Eagles offense has a day. I don't know if I really am smashing the Eagles defense. I just have a feeling that they could allow some points. It could be a little bit more high scoring than expected, but give me the Eagles.
The old saying, Dan, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That's just kind of how I feel about this Browns organization, man. I mean, it's just how long can we do this Deshaun Watson gimmick? I think the gimmick's over. I think it's just time to swallow your pride and swallow that $200 million you gave him in guaranteed money and say, we messed up. Joe Flacco, what can we give the Colts to get Joe Flacco back to save this season and to make a playoff push? That's where I'm at with the Browns right now. Obviously, give me the Eagles. It's pretty cut and dry. They're the better football team. Deshaun Watson is a pretty terrible football player. And yeah, it's as simple as that. The Browns are not going to win or not going to be contenders until Deshaun Watson's not at quarterback.
It will be interesting to see at what point they do put Jameis Winston in because, I mean, obviously he's going to give them a better chance. He is kind of like Flacco, where he's just going to sling it downfield and make these games a lot more high scoring. And they have a great defense. So I do think that Jameis obviously gives them a better chance with Watson playing like maybe not even top 40 quarterback play in the NFL right now. So yeah, the Eagles are going to win this game. You could totally add them to your parlays, take the money line. They're going to cover that spread for sure. Fantasy wise, I don't want to start any Browns. Amari Cooper, if you're desperate, he's the literal only Brown I'm starting. I don't even want to start Jerome Ford, even if Nick Chubb doesn't play. So nothing for the Browns. And then for the Eagles, you're starting all of the studs. You're targeting the Eagles, and you don't need to talk about it because you're starting all the studs, and that's it.
And just one thing here, Dan, I want to ask you about. In the case of Amari Cooper, I feel like his name is just brought up a lot for trade talk. Do you think, the Browns ultimately deal him? Do you think the Browns will be contenders in honestly selling a lot of players? And if so, is Amari Cooper, depending on where he ends up, is he a good, go trade for candidate right now?
I think Amari Cooper will be traded 100%. I don't think I would trade for him in fantasy though, with the uncertainty. Like I have a feeling he's going to go to the Cowboys, and I don't know if I would really want to trade for him being the number two there. I don't know. I guess you could if you really want to risk it, but it is a little bit scary if he goes to a bad situation. Obviously, if he goes to like the Chiefs, then you obviously look like a complete genius. It is very tough, honestly. I don't know if I have the cojones to do it, but I could see the play there and. I do think he gets traded ultimately because you couldn't see how much of a disaster this team has been. You couldn't even possibly predict it.
Yeah, I think you just said that perfectly. I mean, if he happened to get traded to the Chiefs and you were able to buy him now, you can just lock him in for a Rashee Rice type production because he will get 8 to 9 targets a game and have 100 yards and almost probably a touchdown, a lock every game. I mean, that's best case scenario for Amari Cooper. The whole league doesn't want to see that. That would just be just be gut wrenching for everyone. But if it did happen and you did trade for him before it happened, you're looking like a genius.
Yeah, monitor that. If you can get him for low, if the Amari Cooper manager just wants to get rid of him, then definitely it would not be a bad trade. He could go to the Bills, and that would also be a genius landing spot. But let's go on to the next game. The 4-1 Houston Texans are going to go into New England, play the 1-4 Patriots. The Texans are 7-point road favorites in this one. Drake May's first start in the throwback uniforms. It should be very fun. The number 2 overall pick from 2 years ago and the number 3 overall pick from last year. It should be really, really fun, just matchup in general. But give me the Texans. I mean, you can't really say too much. The Patriots are the worst team in the NFL. I will say they are dumb for putting Drake May in. They're kind of Bryce Younging him right now, just throwing him into the fire with no offensive line. The whole offensive line's banged up. Really terrible move, honestly, from the Patriots. I know it's kind of cowardice to sit him for the year and play everyone else. But I mean, I think it's a waste of a third overall pick. You're just stunting his development 100%. It's just not a good situation to be in. With that being said, give me the Texans to win this game handily. They'll cover that 7-point spread, even without Nico Collins. I think they'll fare just fine and they'll have a day here in New England.
I think it's pretty tough to put Drake May in this situation where you're 1-4. Your offensive line is terrible, your weapons are terrible, and so yeah, like you said, it's getting that Bryce Young treatment where you're throwing him into the flames, and that's scary with the quarterback because confidence is a big key for quarterbacks and going out there and playing with confidence, playing with knowing your old line's going to hold up and making big time throws. I don't think Drake May is going to be terrible. But I feel like you said this could be a big stunt in his development because why do you want to put what you hope to be your franchise quarterback, out to the wolves and possibly stunt that growth and that development because he's going to get banged up out there. He's going to get hit, which he could go out there and be incredible, but still it's a tough situation to be thrown into. And yeah, like you said, this one again pretty cut and dry with this one. Obviously, the Texans are going to come out here. Obviously, the Texans are going to handle business. It's going to be a pretty easy win for them. And I hope Drake May, I'm a big Drake May fan, so I really want to see him succeed in this one. But I feel like this is just a very tough matchup to come into against, a defensive guru and D'Amico Ryans who will probably bring the house at him.
Yeah, we were both the biggest Drake May people you could possibly be this offseason. But yeah, this is literally an impossible situation here. I feel terrible that they're throwing him into this situation. But going into fantasy, you're just starting Ramondre for the Patriots. And for the Texans, I think you should start the Texans defense. Obviously, you start everyone else on the Texans. No Nico Collins, so maybe you throw a dart at Xavier Hutchinson. He could be the 2023 Noah Brown, possibly, but you should see a lot of Stephon Diggs and some more of Tank Dell. Hopefully he can improve. And then running back wise, if Joe Mixon goes, we obviously play him. If not, I think it's Dyer Agumbawale, and that's it. I'm not messing with Akers or Damian Pierce, so I think that's really cut and dry there for fantasy.
Yeah, 100%. You know, really excited to watch Drake May play football. Really hope he does good. I love to see him go out there and really have a good game.
Yeah, we both love Drake May. We had him as the number two quarterback in the class, so hopefully he's good. But man, this is an impossible situation. We're going to the next game, the last of the early games. The 2-3 Indy Colts are going to go into Tennessee, play the 1-3 Titans. We're 2.5 point home favorites in this one. It's very interesting. The Colts, when I was making these graphics earlier, were 1 point road favorites in this one, and then the news came out that Anthony Richardson practiced. The news came out that Michael Pittman's going to miss. It's looking like Jonathan Taylor's going to miss. So that line has moved all the way over to the Titans being favored pretty hefty here. 2.5 points favorites at home. Very tough game to pick. I mean, if it's Flacco, I'm pretty confident that the Colts win this game. I just don't see the Titans being able to score with Flacco consistently. And then I mean, I'll get my pick out of the way. I'm going to pick the Colts regardless of the quarterback because the Titans struggled with Malik Willis, and obviously Anthony Richardson's a suit up version of Malik Willis. So I think even if Anthony Richardson plays, they're going to have a tough time stopping him on the ground. So, even without Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor, I don't love it because the weapons are very much thinning out there without their two best stars really on offense. But I do think the Colts get it done. Josh Downs has really stepped up. AD Mitchell, I think, will step up this week, maybe even add him in fantasy. And Alec Pierce has been playing awesome. So, regardless of the quarterback, I'm going to take the Colts. I mean, the Titans are coming off a bye. They're getting healthier. Their defense is playing really good. Their corners are locked down right now. Jarvis Brown-Lee is a stud. Obviously, Abuzie is hurt, and I mean, L'Jarius Sneed is obviously a stud. So their defense is solid. Their run D is really good. It could be a tough for the Colts on the ground. De'Vondre Sweat is just stupid. He is so good. He was a great pick in the second round for the Titans. So I could see it go either way, but I'm going to pick the Colts here.
It's going to be, a tough AFC South division matchup. And I mean, I guess historically the Titans have really always had the Colts number. To be honest, they've always played them really well. However, I don't have confidence right now and like you said in Will Levis. I think it just ultimately comes down to the quarterback play in this one. And, Joe Flacco, as old as he is, he's playing savvy, good football. I mean, he led that Browns team, and I think that was the Browns' biggest mistake was getting rid of Joe Flacco. And I think he could do the same thing with the Colts. I think the Colts would be wise to start Joe Flacco for the rest of the season. I think if they want a chance to be contenders or to compete for a playoff spot, I think Joe Flacco gives you the best chance to win right now. I don't think Anthony Richardson is playing good football. I think he's playing careless football. I think he's just kind of boom or bust. He's not very accurate. You're just hoping for that really big play. And Joe Flacco just, he's just really taking this offense and playing good football, playing surgical football, spreading out the ball to all the receivers. And yeah, just to get into, fantasy aspect with Joe Flacco, I mean, Josh Downs is, a borderline top 20 receiver every single week with the Joe Flacco. I mean, he's really taken off. Alec Pierce is a good play. I mean, they're just really a better chemistry with Joe Flacco. I think he throws a better ball. I think he's more accurate. I think he's more decisive. And I think the team rallies around him a lot better. Oh, you're on mute.
Flacco just gives so much offensive production. I mean, if he is to go, then obviously you have to fire up Downs, you have to fire up Trey Sermon, you have to fire up. I mean, maybe even AD Mitchell could be a fun dart throw, the same as Alec Pierce. You're throwing darts at these Colts guys for sure. If Flacco goes, if A-Rich goes, I still think the Colts win this game. I would maybe even start A-Rich if you're really bold and desperate, just because of this matchup, and he could run all over this team like Malik Willis did. Not really confident about the receiving options if he goes. He did practice this week, so monitor that. And you did say that the Colts have the best chance of winning with Flacco, and I mean Vegas agrees because when Anthony Richardson practiced, the line went to the Titans, so that's just kind of how it is. But obviously, they would play Richardson just because that's this year is a lost year. Really, they're just evaluating their quarterback at this point. But going on to the Titans, you don't really want to start anyone other than Tony Pollard. Tyjae Spears could be a deep dart throw. I have to start Calvin Ridley in my league because of bye weeks, and I'm not excited about it. He's looked good, but they just don't look at him. DeAndre Hopkins could be a dart throw as well. They're both just kind of 50-50, hope that they get in the end zone, but that's really about it in this one.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. It'll be a fun, tough divisional game.
All right, let's go on to the first of the afternoon games. Let's go on to the Seekers Bowl here. The 2-2 LA Chargers are going to go into Denver, play the 3-2 Broncos, who are 3-point underdogs at home in this one. The Chargers are favored here, and it's going to be a really good matchup. I think it's going to be a low scoring defensive battle, definitely low scoring. Two Oregon quarterbacks that have faced each other before in college. I think the bye week is huge for the Chargers coming off the bye. They were really banged up. I think that's going to be big for them getting some people back healthy. Justin Herbert's a week healthier. So this is going to be a really good game. It is almost a coin flip, just, a division battle, two really good defenses so far. Both are playing pretty good so far. Both are 500 or above. Give me the Broncos, though. Give me the second best defense in the NFL to win at home. I think being home is really big. So I'm going to take the Broncos here. I can't get out of my mind just what the Broncos defense did last year in LA to Herbert, where they just blitzed the hell out of him. They just made it. Zach Allen just went off, and they ended up injuring Herbert because they just were just in his face constantly. And I just have a feeling they're just going to blitz so hard this game, make it hard to run on them. And I do think the Broncos defense is ultimately the reason I choose them and what will prevail.
No, I think it'd be against our religion to pick, against our teams in this. So I'm glad you picked the Broncos. That's what you should have done. But I will pick the Chargers because it is absolutely rivalry week. It is, Dan versus Stores week. And it's like I said at the beginning of this show, it's going to be some toxic vibes. It's, there's going to be some text and there's going to be some trigger, warnings going back and forth, till Sunday. But it's going to be, yeah, like Dan said, it's going to be a low scoring affair. You got two offenses with just not great offensive talent, but two really good defenses, two top 10 defenses in the NFL right now in terms of, I think the Chargers might be the number one team in lowest scoring, or in holding offense to lowest scores. Broncos are like the number one defensive scoring team in terms of interceptions, touchdowns, all that. They're just two really good defensive minds in Jesse Minter and Vance Joseph. This one's going to come down to field possession. This one's going to come down to turnovers and field possession. Whoever doesn't make mistake, whoever plays a cleaner football game on offense. And honestly, punting's going to be a big one in this one. If we can, if whoever nails each other if you can pin somebody back in the 10-yard line and win that field possession battle, that's what this game really might come down to. Is just something like that, and maybe a broken play, and who can wear the other person out. So I think both teams are actually pretty banged up. I was going through the Broncos injury report. It looks like there's a lot of people who are on the injury report. The Chargers obviously have a ton of people on the injury report, even after the bye. Somehow they got more. Joe Alt looks to be playing. Rashawn Slater is questionable. So that'll have a big part to do with this game. Obviously, with the Broncos, for Rashawn Slater's not playing, and you got Trey Pipkins out there at tackle. The Broncos are going to have a field day. So it definitely comes down to, health of this game if they're at 100%. But obviously I'm going to be riding with my Chargers. However, it's going to be a nail biter the entire time.
Yeah, a lot of fun matchups in this one. Christian Fulton's playing really good for the Chargers, the fifth highest graded cornerback right now for PFF. against Cortland Sutton. I mean, I wouldn't start anyone, any receivers for the Broncos in fantasy going into fantasy. The only Bronco I would consider starting is Javonte Williams if you need to, if you're in a pinch at running back, just because of his receiving baseline. And I do like what you said. It will be kind of down to the quarterbacks in this close game. You have to play a safe game. I do like what I've seen from Bo Nix lately, the running, the playing more confident and safe. I do like what I see. So I would start Javonte if I needed to because I think he'll have a nice receiving baseline. And then for the Chargers, we're starting J.K. Dobbins in our co-manager league because of Jonathan Taylor being hurt.
Not super excited about it, but
Yeah, I really think this Broncos defense is just scary to start really any fantasy options as we've seen the last few weeks. But Lad
is Lad
McConkey,
McConkey going to be on pass for 10?
no, no, not a chance.
Okay.
He's never in the
He
slot.
doesn't.
So
Okay.
Lad
Okay.
McConkey could be a pretty good slot option, fantasy option. I mean, Jaquan McMillan's been pretty solid in the slot, but Lad McConkey would be the receiver I'm looking to start because you can't touch QJ because I really think QJ is going to be the one that Pat Surtain shadows in this one. So I wouldn't touch him this week.
Yeah, Pastor Dan's going to take QJ completely out of the game. He will be irrelevant for 4 quarters. And Lad McConkey, do the Broncos play a lot of man or zone mostly?
They've been playing a lot of zone, but I mean, Pat Surtain's
That's
usually manned up and then it's zone everywhere else.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. Lad McConkey is very good against man coverage. He wins like 89% of his reps in man coverage. Um, Zone coverage is going to be a little different. It'll definitely be a challenge. I'm looking forward to this game. Also, at the same time, I'm not because I just know it's going to be like a 10-7 type of game, and it's just going to be just gross. I feel like we're going to leave just feeling gross after it. But it's definitely rivalry week. It'll be fun, but I just feel a gross game coming. I feel it.
Yeah, don't watch this one if you're not us. And I can already just see Quentin Johnson having one catch for like some stupid moss over Pat Surtain, just something stupid for a touchdown, just some stupid stuff happening. But this is going to be a
Dan's
funny
trying to
one.
use reverse psychology. Dan's already doing the voodoo hacks out here.
No, I can just picture, I can see just some stupid QJ catch on Surtain. But we'll go on to the next one. By the way, start the Broncos and Chargers defenses as well. I think it's just going to be one of the lower scoring games of the week. But let's go on to the next game. The 3-2 Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go into Vegas and play the 2-3 Raiders. The Steelers are 3-point road favorites in this one. And I'm going to say it right now, I'm not picking the Raiders the rest of the season until Anthony Pierce is fired. I vouched for Anthony Pierce to be rehired because of what he did as an interim coach, but man, he is tragic as a coach. He is unserious, incompetent. He is just not an NFL head coach. He can be a good rah-rah type of defensive coordinator, maybe, but he's not a head coach. He's out here picking Aiden O'Connell, maybe the one quarterback on planet Earth that's worse than Gardner Minshew and maybe Deshaun Watson. So give me the Steelers in this one. Obviously, the incompetent Raiders with Christian Wilkins out of this game as well. I mean, just I'm not picking Aiden O'Connell to win anything, even at home, even against a Steelers team that's just not going to score a lot of points. I think the Steelers could kind of get right in this game. I think Najee has a very good game. I think George Pickens will have a very good game coming off a stinker performance. I think he'll be a little bit pissed off, and this is just such a great matchup for the Steelers. So give me Justin Fields, Pickens, and Najee to eat in this one and take the W.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, like you said. Antonio Pierce, I think he was a good interim head coach last year, to step in. I think he gave the team what they needed. It was just a different face. They needed to get off of Josh McDaniels. But now it just feels like the same thing. It just feels like a repeated cycle of last year. It feels like the team is falling apart. You know, this roster is looking rough, obviously, right now. Devontae Adams, we're just all waiting on the trade news to happen. It's toxic vibes in Las Vegas right now. There is some fun, good young talent for this team, obviously, as we have on our screen right here. Brock Bowers, what an incredible football player, man. Just you can just tell this guy's going to be the best tight end in the league for a long, long time to come. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel with the Raiders. They do have some fun pieces, Jackson Powers Johnson. But yeah, this season I think is pretty much chalked. I think you're already looking forward to next season. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, man, I we were just talking earlier, and you said the Pittsburgh Steelers have been playing the same type of football for the last 20 years. So they're going to continue to do that in this game, and they will just outman the Raiders and just beat them with ease.
Yeah, the Steelers are just that same football team, just teetering between like the top 12 to 20 teams in the NFL. They're just gonna be in every game. They're that same football team. So give me the Steelers in this one. Obviously, going into fantasy, start the Steelers defense. Obviously, if you have them, start Pickens, Najee, and Fields. If you have them, that's it for this game. I'm not throwing any other darts at any ancillary options. I guess you can start Pat Freiermuth because he's been playing pretty good. And then Brock Bowers is the only person I'm looking to start on the Raiders. Jacoby Myers could be started if you really needed to. Could be just because he's going to be the wide receiver one rest of season here. Trey Tucker, I'm just not really interested in all. I think you can drop Trey Tucker, honestly. And then if I had to start a running back here, it would be Alexander Madison, but that is if you're really, really, really down bad. And yeah, but I think that's it. You can be excited about Brock Bowers, Jackson Powers Johnson, Max Crosby, and that's it.
100%, yeah. 100%. We're looking forward to next season already.
Absolutely. We'll go on to the next game. A really, really fun matchup here. The 3-1 Detroit Lions are going to go into Dallas and play the 3-2 Cowboys. Lions are 3-point road favorites in this one. Coming off the bye, should be a really fun matchup. Amon-Ra, St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. A lot of superstar talent, offensive talent. This will be one of the higher scoring games of the week, no matter what. Give me the Lions in this one, though. The Lions look like the best team in football right now. I really do think they are. And the Cowboys do not look like that. The Cowboys are a little bit of a struggle. They're having some close games against some teams that they probably shouldn't have close games against. They just their offense dominated the Steelers last week, and they could barely win that game. They could barely come away with points because they just could not convert in the red zone. So give me the Lions to win this game pretty handily. The Cowboys have had some ass beatings at home this year. I expect another one. I think the Lions definitely cover this spread. I think they win by a decent amount here. And I mean, I think Dak and CeeDee have a pretty good game against the Lions defense. But outside of that, I mean, I think Rico Dowdle kind of struggles. The Lions have literally the best run defense in the NFL. Dowdle can only get there in fantasy by, receiving game. So give me the Lions, man. They just have too much. Their run game is too much. Their passing game is too much. Give me the Lions.
100% agree. I think the Lions too, are starting to really, really heat up. And, coming off of a bye, I think they're going to be, coming out there with their head on fire. And, I have all the confidence in the world in this Dan Campbell team. And I think they've, every week progressively gotten better. I thought Jared Goff in his last game before the bye was really surgical. The offense started to look really good, started just to heat up. And yeah, their offensive weapons and talent is just a little too overwhelming, I feel like for the Cowboys, and especially on the Cowboys side of the ball where, you only feel confident in one superstar, and that's CeeDee Lamb. Everyone else on that team, you're just hoping somebody can get open. You're hoping Dak, can find Ferguson or Tolbert or somebody breaks open. But the run game's pretty bad. I have no confidence in the running backs on the Cowboys side of thing. And then yeah, just this Lions offense and roster, behind Ben Johnson's offensive coordinator. It's just one of the most electric, offenses in football. And I think they'll continue to dominate teams going forward.
Yep. And going into fantasy, don't need to talk about the Lions because you're starting every single line possible. You're starting them all. Going on to the Cowboys, obviously you're starting CD. You could start Dak. You could definitely start Jake Ferguson. He's an awesome tight end rest of season. And then my start of the week here in fantasy is going to be Jalen Tolbert. I really like the outlook for Jalen Tolbert this week. They're going to be chasing the scoreboard. They're going to be passing the hell out of the ball against this Lions team like the Seahawks were 2 weeks ago. So give me Jalen Tolbert as my start of the week. I think Rico Dowdle you could start as a receiving option. Really, he's gonna get a lot of catches in this game. I don't think he does anything on the ground. And I think that's it fantasy wise here.
100% agree. Should be, a pretty fun game. Pick the Lions to cover the spread.
Yep, I think that's actually a little bit low of a spread, but it makes sense since they're on the road. I think they definitely have a little bit of an ass beating to come, though. We'll go on to the next game. The 3-2 Atlanta Falcons are going to go into Carolina and play the 1-4 Panthers. The Falcons are 6-point road favorites in this one, coming off just a offensive shootout against the Buccaneers. A really fun game. Kirk Cousins 500 plus passing yards. Drake London, Darnell Mooney completely went off. Give me the Falcons to, I'll get this pick right out of the way. Give me the Falcons to win this NFC South matchup. It should be pretty cut and dry. I don't really think that the Panthers have that firepower to score with the Falcons. I think Bijan's been a big, big fantasy football disappointment. Obviously, he's looked good. He's looked fine every time he's touched it, but his kind of snap share is going down each week. So hopefully this can be a good get right game for Bijan against this Panthers run defense. It should be a good just game for everyone on the Falcons in general. Start everyone on the Falcons and then give me the Falcons to kind of win this game handily. We might even see Bryce Young by the end of it.
Yeah, this is a perfect game for the Falcons coming off of mini bye, playing Thursday night football. Kirk Cousins coming off of a 500-yard performance and 4 touchdowns. His connection with Drake London is just really starting to heat up. So this is a dangerous Falcons team, man. They're starting the pieces are finally starting to click together. They're starting to get hot. Darnell Mooney's looking good. Ray McCloud's looking good. Kyle Pitts, had one of his best games of his career is probably because he's playing against Dan in fantasy football. So, he just had to show out for the boys. But it's a good Falcons team, man. They're scary, and just give me the Falcons to win this one pretty handily.
And you mentioned Kyle Pitts. I think he's a great sell high candidate. If you have Kyle Pitts, I would be trying to field some offers and just get off of him. If you can get like a Jake Ferguson, if you can get a Tucker Craft, I really am just not confident in Kyle Pitts the rest of the season. And he is coming off of, like the best game that we've seen from him volume wise in a long time. He was getting all of Bijan's dump offs. It was just crazy stuff. Haven't seen anything like it. But yeah, 500 passing yards from Kirk Cousins and Bijan couldn't even really get any of that in the receiving game. So there is a little bit of a concern. Obviously, if you can't get there against this Panthers team, then it's very, very concerning. But I do expect everyone on this Falcons team to click. You start them all in fantasy. Don't even need to talk about it. You could even start Ray McCloud in this one. You're starting every Falcon. Panthers wise, you're obviously firing up Chuba Hubbard. He's a top 15 running back right now until Jonathan Brooks comes back. No word on Jonathan Brooks yet. Xavier Legette, you start. Obviously, Deontay Johnson coming off a disappointing week, you still have to start because he should have a good target share here in this game that there should be chasing for most of the game. So I think that's all the fantasy outlook. I don't think you want to start Andy Dalton, but you could definitely start Kirk Cousins if you wanted.
So you're feeling confident in Xavier Legette?
Yeah, I would start Leggett. It's just a good matchup where they've got to be chasing. I could totally see him scoring a touchdown here. So
Obviously a stinker last week, but he did end up leaving the game early. Only had
yeah.
one catch for 8 yards. After coming off of that, that 10 target, 66 yard and touchdown game. Hopefully he gets fired up. I'm really excited for him in fantasy. Obviously last week was very, very disappointing. I started him in fantasy. I got a whopping 1.8 fantasy points. But like you said, the script should be pretty good. They'll be trailing. Andy Dalton will be throwing the ball a lot. And hopefully he stays healthy for the whole game.
Yeah, he's been practicing, so he should be good to go. And yeah, I would kind of even target this game in fantasy, start a lot of options in this game, and maybe I don't think I would start the Falcons defense, honestly, just because Andy Dalton could get some Mickey Mouse touchdowns at the end. But we'll go on to the Sunday night football game, the 1-4 Cincinnati Bengals. So crazy saying that. The 1-4 Bengals are going to go into New York and play the 2-3 Giants. The Bengals are 3.5 point road favorites in this one. And if I'm being completely real, I don't think any team in the NFL wants to play the Bengals right now. I know they're 1-4, but if you just talk about the way that this offense is playing, they're playing like a top three offense. Joe Burrow is just slinging the pill all the way. He's just spreading the ball so perfectly to every weapon. T. Higgins is eating. Jamar Chase is eating. The tight ends are eating. The running backs in the backfield are eating. Joe Burrow is playing some beautiful surgical football. So obviously, give me the Bengals to win this one on the road. I actually think it could be a close game. The Giants are playing impressive football, not to just completely, glaze over the Bengals. I think Daniel Jones has been impressive. We got to respect him by putting him on the graphic here for the first time this season. He's earned it. So I think it'll be a good game in New York. It should be a pretty close, exciting Sunday night football game with a lot of offense, but give me the Bengals offense to prevail in this one. They're just playing so good. Jamar Chase is looking like the number one player in fantasy right now with this offense clicking the way that it is. Just give me the Bengals.
Yeah, I love it. I'm right on the same page with you. Just want to give you a little trivia question. Do you know what rank Joe Burrow is in fantasy?
We started off pretty rough. I will say quarterback 6.
Quarterback 3.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I feel like, quietly Joe Burrow, obviously last week, his 392-yard performance and 5 touchdowns obviously helps inflate that. He had a 43-point fantasy week last week. But he has been playing really. Week one was really his stinker where he only had 8 points, but he's been 21 points, 31 points, 20 points, 43 points. So he's had two 300-yard games, multiple touchdown games, 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns. He's been playing really good football. It's not getting talked about enough just because the Bengals are losing with him even playing this good of football, and this offense heating up. The Bengals, I mean, if put on your lottery ticket the Bengals being 1-4, I mean, that's no one would have guessed that. However, I do think they'll prevail. I think they'll bounce back. I think this is probably the start of a good winning streak for the Bengals. I feel like, this is a good get right game, even after you had a get right game against the Baltimore Ravens. But I mean, you go New York, Cleveland, Philadelphia, Las Vegas. I feel like it's a good start to start winning for the Bengals.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, he was a fantasy football still. If you did get him in fantasy, obviously you're starting every single Bengals option. Zach Moss, monitor his situation because if he doesn't go, I think Chase Brown's a top 10 running back in fantasy. You just have to fire up because I think he'll have a great week. Both these defenses have been really soft. Obviously, there's Dexter Lawrence for the Giants, who's been awesome, but I think just the passing game in this game, there's going to be so much volume. Feel bad for Joe Burrow. Obviously, you read his stats off against the Ravens, and he somehow lost in overtime. So he's been putting in effort. Jamar Chase is absolutely balling. It's nice to see T. Higgins back and balling. Hopefully, he can keep it going. But yeah, Giants wise in fantasy, I think Devin Singletary will be back. If he is, you can start him. If not, Tracy's a great start. Obviously, Neighbors is a great start. If he plays, Wando is going to be starting for us over Rashid Shaheed in our co-manager league, and then if Neighbors doesn't go, you can start Slayton, but I think that's it in fantasy.
Yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head right there. But yeah, I really like the take you said. If Zach Moss hasn't played, Chase Brown has been the more productive fantasy back, has looked better than Zach Moss. Obviously, Zach Moss pass protection, everything is what keeps him in the game. But if Zach Moss doesn't go, it's gonna be a fun week for Chase Brown.
And it's going to be hard for Zach Moss to keep the majority of the targets and the runs if Chase Brown plays the whole game because he's just looked better and more explosive, and he will have a really good game against the Giants. But with respect to the Giants, they've been playing a lot better. They're improving every week. It should be a pretty close game. We'll go on to the last game of the week, the Monday night football game. The 3-2 Buffalo Bills are going to go to New York, and play the 2-3 Jets. The Bills are 2.5 point road favorites in this one. It should be a really fun matchup. I mean, we all know it. Every time that a head coach gets fired, that team just comes out absolutely with their heads on fire for their interim coach, and they usually win the next week after that. So that kind of makes it hard to pick. I don't
I
know.
picked the Jets just because of that reason.
Really?
I had originally in our pick'ems I'd clicked on the Bills and then I realized that Robert Saleh had gotten fired, and so I'm like, okay, this is the one week where I think the Jets are 100% locked to win. And not that I think they're the better football team, not that I think they should win. It's you got to trust the process of when any team fires a coach, they got to go win that week.
Yeah, it's definitely tough because I mean, I've been going back and forth. I listed this as our coin toss of the week, the last game of the week. It's going to be just a 50-50 game, really. But I'm going to go with the Bills here mostly because they fired Saleh and not Nathaniel Hackett, and Nathaniel Hackett's still there, maybe even calling the plays. I don't even know if they're going to take that away from him yet. So I am going to go with the Bills here. I'm not confident about it coming off of two stinker performances, obviously two losses in a row. Josh Allen's coming off of a 9 for 30 completion performance. I hate to see that from someone that loves Josh Allen more than anyone. I need to see him play more surgical. This Jets defense is awesome. Obviously, they're going to be playing fired up as well. So it should be hard for Josh Allen, James Cook, Dalton Kincaid to eat on them. Hopefully, Khalil Shakir goes. We don't have much clarification on his injuries yet, but give me the Bills just because Hackett is still somehow employed on this team. I can't pick Hackett until he's fired. It is a coin flip though because of just how hard teams play after their head coach gets fired. It's really hard to pick.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough game for sure. Another divisional, matchup, two teams that know each other very well, two teams that play each other twice a year. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I believe in, I believe in, the conspiracies of the NFL. And then one of the conspiracies is, once that coach gets fired, the next week that team plays the best football of their career just because I feel like they have to. They go out there and they really show out for, the interim head coach or the new head coach. And, I feel like that's just going to be the difference in this game to me. And obviously, the Bills last week were a very, very big struggle. Josh Allen's receivers are just not, coming through for him. And Mac Hollins had, one of the worst tracking slash drops I've seen. I mean, Josh Allen shouldn't have been 9 of 30. I think, he wasn't very decisive or accurate, but his receivers definitely didn't help with that. I mean, and he should have had, better stats. It's been very disappointing, the last 2 weeks from a fantasy aspect, especially from a guy that just traded a lot for Josh Allen because I thought I was buying low. Hopefully, this is a good right game for Josh Allen for my fantasy team's sakes. And I believe in Josh Allen, and I believe, he'll start playing that hero football, which also scares me for the pick side of things. But yeah, just a weird vibe coming from Buffalo for me. I don't know. The offense is just not. I don't know. I don't know what to think, because Josh Allen is Superman. He's so good. He can take over any game, but I am just a little scared of this offense right now.
Yeah, going into fantasy, I mean, this Jets defense is awesome. So you do have to be a little bit scared of these Bills options. You have to start Josh Allen, James Cook, and Dalton Kincaid and just hope for the best. You got to hope that Dalton Kincaid gets more involved because they need to feature him as their number one receiver if they want to have more success in this offense. If they don't trade for a number one receiver like Amari Cooper or Devontae Adams, which would be beautiful for this team, but you got to start those three. That's it. Unless Khalil Shakir plays, you can totally start him. For the Jets, it's just Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. I don't think you want to start anyone else. I might start Braylon Allen in our league just because I don't have any spots to pick up someone and start. And I mean, there's no running back option. So I gotta probably start Braylon Allen against this Bills defense, hope for a receiving touchdown or something. And I do want to say you mentioned the conspiracy theory, but I don't even think it's a conspiracy theory because teams the week after firing their coach, I saw a stat there. I think it's 70 or 80% win rate the week after firing their coach. So I mean, it's just a fact at this point. It's pretty crazy. Last question I want to ask you before we get out of here. I saw something that Mike Williams could be on the trade block if they trade for Devontae Adams. Would you want the Chargers to trade back for
Yes, I would absolutely love a Mike Williams reunion. I think Mike Williams and Justin Herbert have an incredible chemistry. Obviously, Mike Williams coming off that ACL scare and getting paid $15 million a year is tough to bite the bullet. But if the Chargers want to be serious, serious contenders, let's bring back a familiar face. Let's bring back a guy that can actually stretch the field because I'm not sure we've had a catch over 30 yards this entire season.
Yeah, ending it off on a fun hypothetical there. Mike Williams, Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams. It'll be interesting to see if anyone ends up getting moved on from. A lot of trade talks could be happening here in the next few weeks before the deadline, but really fun going over all the week 6 games. A lot of fun matchups, interesting picks. The Chargers, Broncos, Seekers rivalry game should be really electric. So stay tuned to the NFL Seekers. We should have a mock draft coming out for our next episode. So fun times here on the Seekers are way too early. 2025 mock draft should be really fun. So thank you guys for tuning in.
Thanks, guys. Like, share, subscribe, all the good things. Show us some love, comment, tell us what you think of us. Tell us if you hate us, tell us if you love us, tell us what you'd like to see next. Obviously, you're getting the mock draft next, so you guys should be excited. But after that, just let us know what kind of content you like to see.
Yep. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out.
Peace.